We have a lot of gear in the game, and I think it's time that we just talked about it for a little bit. Roll it. Welcome back. Have any of you ever thought about the sheer magnitude of gear in the game? I'm talking about thousands upon thousands of pieces past and present. Now think about how much of that gear is actually worth anything. It's a tiny fraction, maybe around 1%, and given the vast quantity of gear out there, even that 1% might be a generous estimate. It's a bit mind-boggling when you put it into perspective. Let's take a look at all this. It's a bit baffling why game developers keep churning out so much gear with each module. I mean, I get it, but there's like 60 to 100 new pieces every time, and honestly most of them are just pointless. In this latest module alone, there are a whopping 334 gear pieces in total, according to Aster's document, which you see on your screen right now. Admittedly, many of them are part of sets and shared among multiple classes, but that still adds up to a significant number. The real question is, out of these 334 pieces, how many do you think will genuinely be useful or widely adopted by the player base? And when I say player base, I'm predominantly referring to endgame players, as the best items tend to cater to a mere 1 to 2% of the gaming community, unfortunately. I mean, why burden yourself with creating or recycling gear that you know players won't bother with? Every module you might get 1 or 2 rings that are actually useful, and the rest just end up gathering dust. The same goes for the other gear pieces. Maybe 1 good chest piece, a pair of gloves, or some pants, and the rest are just meh or downright garbage. And more often than not, gear from previous modules is usually better, and we stick to that for a while. I can only think of 3 reasons for this constant influx of gear. 1, they add more gear so whatever we don't use in actual gameplay we can at least use for transmutes. 2 could be that they're not entirely sure what gear is good until we the players test them out for them. So they throw in everything they can think of and hope some of them will actually be worth using. Honestly, I'm more inclined to believe the latter given how often most of the gear is just useless. And 3 could be for diversity, but we all know diversity doesn't matter if those diverse items are underperforming. People just gravitate to the best items anyway. And let's be real, I highly doubt they do extensive testing on the gear. If they did, we wouldn't see gear malfunctioning or having unintended results as often as we do. It feels like we're the real testers here, not Cryptic, and it's been that way forever. And it's still astonishing to me that people are still sticking with Mirage weapons from a whopping 100 modules ago. I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. If that doesn't strongly imply that Cryptic isn't thoroughly testing our gear, I don't know what does. Those weapons should have been rendered obsolete ages ago. Typically the expectation is that with each new module we're getting better weapons, right? It's an ongoing pursuit of upgrading our gear, not the other way around. It just seems counterintuitive. Why bother with running trials to obtain new weapons if relics from the Cretaceous period some 65 million years ago are still some of the best around? It's like suggesting that cavemen and their wooden clubs are more effective than a sword forged from metal. Same applies for chest pieces, boots, helms, and whatever else. It seems that the constant influx of gear additions is more about creating the illusion of abundant rewards in each module. The idea of receiving shiny new things might excite players, but in reality the sheer volume of new gear has the opposite effect, especially when the excitement subsides. With so many options, players and even testers are forced to meticulously test each piece to determine which ones are actually worth using and which are better off discarded. To address this, a practical solution could be simplifying the gear additions. Instead of bombarding players with numerous pieces, consider introducing just 1 or 2 pieces for each class per module. The key is to ensure that these additions are genuine upgrades from the previous module. By reducing the quantity of gear, more time can be allocated to internal testing, ensuring that the gear is not only better, but also functions correctly. No more copy-pasted gear with different names. Quality over quantity. To add variety without impacting performance, consider introducing variations of the same gear with different visual effects. For example, 2 armor pieces could have identical stats and bonuses but appear differently, one engulfed in flames and the other in smoke. This way, players have multiple visual options without gaining any performance advantage. It turns the pursuit of gear into a meaningful choice based on personal aesthetics as well, not just the stats. Another approach could be revisiting the concept of set bonuses way more often than not. They have some set bonuses now, but still add tons of useless gear as well. By adding 2 set, 3 set, or 4 set bonuses for DPSers, healers, and tanks, each with distinct visual effects, players can make choices based on aesthetics without worrying about one set being objectively better than the other. This not only adds value to the gear, but also reintroduces the strategic element of set bonuses from the past way more often than not. And I get that some folks crave variety, but let's be real here. We all know that once we identify the absolute best gear, variety takes a back seat. Everyone gravitates towards the top tier item and diversity falls by the wayside. The only way to truly foster variety is if the new gear additions aren't about being better or worse than each other. Instead, they should offer the same value and performance while introducing different aspects to gameplay. As mentioned before, injecting new and enjoyable visual effects could be a game changer. And before we end the video, here's an intriguing idea that, let's face it, might not never see the light of day. What if, big if, they didn't feel the need to introduce every type of gear with each module? Picture module 27, where they unveil exclusively awesome helms. The subsequent module could focus solely on chest pieces, followed by one dedicated to cool companions or perhaps even mounts or titles or whatever else. Imagine a full module centered around fantastic transmutes or impressive titles that are very unique. The reward doesn't always have to be a deluge of every conceivable gear piece every 3 or 4 months. This approach would allow us the luxury of truly enjoying our meticulously crafted builds without the incessant need to chase new items. Consider this scenario. It takes you 2 months to acquire all your desired items, granting you a full month to revel in your accomplishments before the next module arrives with an entirely new collection of gear. It's like constantly chasing your tail. Ultimately, the key takeaway is that there are alternative ways to incentivize players for the next module. It doesn't always have to revolve around gear. It's time to think outside of the box, unleash some creativity, and surprise us with new and innovative incentives, because I think that would be a great change and fun for everyone. As we all know, I'm asking for too much, and that's never gonna happen. But that's why I'm here, to discuss it just in case it ever does. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you around.